Hello.
Hi,
Hallo.
can you hear my word?
Ja, kan jy my hoor?
Yes.
Okay.
Fine.
Hoe gaan dit?
Good. Like this weird, like I forgot it's Sunday, but
Uh,
it's my rustige oggend so far, so that's good.
ja, okay. En wat het jy gedoen die naweek?
So gister het ek 'n paar vriende oor gehad, obviously min rusting, so we stuck to the lockdown regulations.
Okay, cool.
En dit was basies gister and then very lazy morning
Just
today.
chilling it out. Okay, so welcome to this interview, and thank you very, very much for joining me in this conversation. Very recently, as you know, had this interview with a friend of mine where we were openly speaking about sexuality, and I just felt to contact you to just share more and learn more about your life. I've known you for a long time. Renaldo and I were in school together, in high school together. And it's just been wonderful to see your journey, and it's wonderful to talk about it. So thank you for being here.
A pleasure. I'm excited to chat a bit more.
Yeah, so you are currently, or are you still currently omroeper? Wat is 'n radio omroeper in Engels? I don't even
It's
know.
like a radio presenter or a
A
host.
presenter, yes.
Host and presenter are
Yes.
used interchangeable. I recently wrapped up my weekend shows at Jacaranda FM because of a few of the other projects that's really keeping me extremely busy. But obviously, like I started with radio back when I was at campus level, and sort of life took you through this journey of working for a few stations that
Yeah.
finally made me end up in Johannesburg at Jacaranda FM.
Yo, that's amazing. I think that it must be wonderful to be a presenter on the radio, and it was always such a passion of yours, like drama and presenting. How did it feel to you when you kind of took those steps and you finally kind of made it big? You know, did you feel like your hard work paid off?
I think so, just because it was such a, as you would know, like it was a big aspiration for me to actually work on these platforms. So it was quite nice that over the last 5 years I could tick those boxes, and how those platforms got bigger and grew as I got a bit older. So it was nice that sort of the foundation that was laid back in high school even had some fruits that I'm really enjoying now.
Okay, so since we're breaking the ice a little bit here, you tell me a little bit more of your journey and hoe kan ek dit vra? Ek wil net hier insit soos wat ons aangaan. Ek sal uit-edit wat nie vir ons cool klink nie. So I mean, we don't really have to be nervous. It's fine. I'm quite nervous, but
Yeah.
but anyway, wat wil ek vra? Ek wil vra, I want to say that ja, soos hoe sal ons dit sê? Sal ek sê dat ek weet jy's 'n gay persoon, of sal jy net sê is it fine with you? You're fine with saying,
Yeah,
you're
you
obviously
can.
fine with that.
Yes,
Okay,
definitely.
so Renaldo, it's obviously okay with you if I share this, but you are a gay person, and that's also why I came to you for this interview, because I thought it might be a very, very good different angle to approach the subject of sexuality from. I also know that the gay community is very open-minded. I had so many wonderful friends in Stellenbosch days that were homosexual, and it really gave me a lot of insight into that world and allowed me to be more open about my own sexuality because of their openness. So I find it so wonderful, the work that you've been doing on CakeNet with this new series called Skief. That's a Afrikaans series. Tell me a little bit more what that is all about.
Cool. So I think it was 2 years ago. I was a bit frustrated with the platforms that I was working on, and the sort of taboo that homosexuality was for for many of these media spaces that I worked in. So I had this idea to just highlight what it is to be gay and Afrikaans. And I wanted to do it in a way that I had sort of full creative freedom with the project. So I set out to make this documentary series. I approached a few people, some of them quite famous, a few people with very inspiring stories that I've met over the last few years, all who identify as LGBTI or somewhere on that spectrum. And then it was important for me to do this project because I've dealt with so many issues from a very young age, sort of coming to terms with my sexuality, shame, religion, family, the lack of representation or the limited representation we have, especially in like the Afrikaans media space. And I wanted to do that project, and I put like 6 months into my diary and I worked on it. We shot in Cape Town and Johannesburg. And then the middle of last year, the documentary launched. You can watch it on Netwerk 24. We debuted at the Silverskermfeest in August, and then September it also popped over to Palm Springs in America, and then Woordfeest this year. So it was nice to see that something that was a passion project really became like a very important piece of like LGBTI representation.
Yes. Wow, that is really, really amazing. And I think it is really a baanbreker werk wat jy doen in die Afrikaanse gemeenskap veral. Meaning you are paving the way in the Afrikaans community to be more free about our sexuality. I think that we are still a little bit ingrained in a very conservative way of looking at sex and looking at, as you say, like religion and everything is filtered into this. So it's wonderful. I think it's awesome. And tell me, like in the last 5 years, ever since I've known you, you weren't always out of the closet. So was it a very big thing for you to own up to that? And then afterwards, I mean, you actually like ran with that. You know, it's amazing what you did with that. But was it still a big process for you to deal with at the time before you went out?
Yeah, so obviously, like you'd know, back in high school, I was closeted, and I know it sounds funny because I've always been as flamboyant as I currently am.
Yes.
So I don't think that was a surprise if I were to come up, but it was a massive internal struggle that I didn't feel comfortable with sharing with people. I obviously came out to my mother in my first year, and then that was a whole journey because my parents are quite conservative. They're quite heavily Christian based. So that was a bit difficult for me. And then I just also was like always reminded that for me to succeed in the sort of work that I do, I had to a certain extent downplay the fact that I'm gay. So I constantly heard stories and narratives around, oh, you don't have to tell people you're gay, or be less gay because you won't be picked up by a radio station, or you won't get a job on a TV channel because you're a bit too flamboyant. So obviously, if you're hearing that from a very young age, you start to internalize that there's essentially something wrong with being flamboyant, or basically there's fault with being gay. So it was a very important piece of work, to an extent, like a piece of work that essentially said, yes, I'm gay, and I'm actually just as normal as everyone else. And obviously the people that was part of the documentary had that same narrative, like gay people aren't any different. Jou oom is gay, jou tannie is gay, jou kind kan gay wees. Like, you go through everything that everyone else goes through. So I think it's just essentially, and I hate using this term normalize, but I think it was important to normalize that gay people exist and there's nothing weird or taboo. And I think it is important because much like Renaldo, wat 18 jaar oud was, wat gestres het oor wat mense gaan dink, there's so many kids out there who have this very shameful approach to being attracted to someone of the same sex. So it was very important for me to do that, and it was a very long journey that I was only able to do 2 years ago when I was comfortable with doing it, because I've definitely, if you asked me back in first year, I would be like, I would never do a gay documentary.
Sorry, ek het pas hier vir my. Say hello, Leila. Hello. Hello. She doesn't want to leave her mommy alone right now. Does he? Does he? Daniel, was jy nie? Do you think maybe she would like to go a walk? Okay. Yeah. So this week I actually had a lot of conversations spring up around this topic that I've been putting out there, that I feel like media is really filled with a lot of nudity these days, and it's not at all about shaming that. It's more like a question of where it comes from, and like why people, for instance, post nude selfies or body parts of themselves. So I was wondering what your take is on that. Would you say that the media is quite sexual in that sense, and that also even the media isn't really showing gay couples that much, you know? So would you like that to change as a gay person, or what is your stance on that in general?
So I definitely feel, and like there are many conversations around the fact that the most successful people on social media are the people who post a speedo pic or a bikini pic.
Yeah.
It feeds into that narrative, and it sort of bleeds into who's on the cover of the magazine, and why Sports Illustrated or FHM was a very successful magazine. Like, there's a lot of money to be made with sex. I think it's very commercialized. But for me, and it goes to representation, you touched on the point, it would be interesting to see if the same attention would be, like, if so for instance, there was a gay farmer on Bushaka Vrou last year. And that got a massive amount of backlash, because I think it was also the first time we just saw a gay farmer looking for love. And my biggest concern was, wat is hulle hande gaan vashou of gaan ons ontstel raak, like what's going to happen, because that obviously happens a lot with the like the straight people. I also question, like, what would the response be if it were to be gay men or lesbians or bisexual people who do that level of sort of exposure online or in media. And I don't think it would be as successful or as accepted or as normalized as what we're currently seeing.
No, I think everything is like geared towards harnessing that base frequency that drives us. I think we are very sexual on an instinctual level. We want that, and we want to engage with it. So and I think it is also my opinion that definitely it's easier to have a lot of followers if you are exposing your body. And I guess that is what I'm addressing currently, because I love writing, for instance. I love putting poetry out there and things like that. And obviously you want your work to reach a wider audience. So now I'm kind of stuck with the dilemma, or it feels to me like society is saying to me, okay, well, if you expose a little bit more of yourself and you show your body, then you might be able to reach more people. And that's where I feel like there is a narrative of what beauty is and what love is even out there. You know that as a person, you know. And that is what I am asking us to look at here when we speak about these things. So tell me, going forward, are you going to carry on with your skiff documentary?
So it's been a very so like I said, it was so reassuring and affirming once I saw the initial reaction to the documentary when we released it last year. And it's like it snowballed, and it really like grew into something that's really opened up a few new opportunities. So we are working on sort of a next part or a next version
Okay.
2 of the documentary work. What's also happened, which was very great for me, and it's so weird because I did a graduate degree in teaching in my fourth year, that I've been invited to a few universities to speak to some of their student groups about the documentary and sort of the discrimination and the oppression, but also the success stories of LGBTI people. And I think it's also back to what I said, normalizing
Mm.
being gay or being lesbian or being transgender.
Okay.
So that's been quite nice for me to do. And it's always so awkward because like I don't consider myself like a LGBTI activist, but I think by just being open about who you are,
Yeah.
you do sort of reach more people and
Mm.
inspire people to also just open up
Be
their
who they
closet doors
are.
and yeah.
Mm.
So that's continuing. A bit busy with a few other projects, and then I'm working on a book, and it's it's a bit of a self-help memoir
Ah,
that's going to be very exciting. So that's like the next big project that I'm focusing for the
that's
next, like,
wonderful.
let's say 8 months. Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Busy, busy, busy.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. No, I think it's wonderful. And also using your voice to now reach others, like in the universities, especially young people. I think we really, really
Yeah.
need to speak about these things, and even starting in school from a young age.
Mm.
I'm sure you could also actually go to schools and speak to kids about that as time goes by, you know.
It was actually interesting because I got an email from a girl who was in grade 11 when she watched the documentary, and she sy het vir my e-pos getik en sê, "Hi meneer Schwarp," which is very weird because I'm like 28. And then she said, "Thank you
Sure.
so much for making the documentary. I'm lesbian, but I haven't told anyone. And I would really love to go to my matric ball with another girl." And then
Go.
that's not another conversation we can have because
Mm,
I was I was I went to the matric ball with a girl, which is obviously fine, but like it would have been great to also have that moment with a
yes.
partner who was also gay or bisexual.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
but I'm with you. It should actually start way earlier than varsity.
mm.
But we'll be optimistic to see when that happens, and if schools
Yes.
and parents open the doors for that conversation to be had.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's part of that's why we're having this. Hopefully, this helps to open up those doors a little bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, will you touch on the pornography thing? I feel a little bit awkward to ask you about that, but what is your stance on pornography in general?
So so pornography is such a heated debate, and I think it becomes dangerous if one starts to have a very unhealthy relationship with it.
Yeah.
um and obviously like there's also so much layers to it because like you can talk about like the ethics of making pornography.
Mm.
Are the actors empowered? um
It's so late.
the only issue I have with pornography, and I think it's safe to say that many people, if not most people, consume pornography. It's just a case of like it feeds back into this narrative that you need to look a certain way to
Mm. Mm.
find a certain level of sex or attraction
Yes.
or a relationship. It's extremely like gay pornography, like extremely muscled men who have perfect hair and perfect body.
Ah.
And that's obviously not the reality. Like, ons
Yeah,
almal
it's
lyk nie so.
not at all. Yeah.
It's
And
it's a bit.
also, I mean, sex with a muscular man is not necessarily going to be less or more pleasurable than sex with
Yeah,
a man who's not that muscular. You know,
yeah.
like be not nothing to
But
do
you,
with
I think that's the issue with, and like I think I'm harping on this whole notion of representation. I mean, like if that's your first, as a young person, if that's your first introduction to what sex is, uh, it gives you sort of this warped idea of what sex is and what relationships would be like, because
that.
you're
Mm,
assuming you need to look at the way to achieve that level of pleasure.
mm, mm.
And if that's the only sort of frame of reference, it becomes a bit of a problem if one internalizes that. And I think it also makes meeting a guy or a girl very difficult because you're going to just do what you think you should do based on what you just watched.
Yeah,
Um,
very true.
Sex is a much more personal and like very individual thing with you and your partner or you and
Mm,
yourself.
mm.
I like wat jy like en Pieter hou nie van dat Andre en ou nie of Susan of wie ook al.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that is very true. And I think that even though if you don't want to partake in pornography, if you've been a child who maybe has been exposed to it, but you didn't fall into the trap of being addicted to it or whatever, we are still bombarded with those type of images in the media, you know. And if you don't have the face, and I think it's because in my own life I've been in a situation where I kind of lost my face and I wondered, okay, what am I going to do now? You know, if you don't have beauty and you don't have all of that stuff, then it's down to your brains and it's down to your demeanor. But I can assure you that a lot of people on social media they're scrolling, you know, they're not actually reading what you're going to say. So I think we are influenced by it, and I think it's not to judge it. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that I wonder what it does subliminally to our connections with people and even our ability to find a proper partner, because you're so like over sexualized in a way that you forget that subtlety that true connection actually gives you. You know? You actually got a book deal. You're gonna like publish it and everything. That's amazing.
Yes. So that whole process is just extremely fucking exhausting.
Okay, so if you mention my name, mention all the juicy details, and may it be good memories that we made in Stellenbosch.
Yes.
And thank you very, very much for having this meeting with me. It was lovely to have you and just touch base and hear from a different perspective.
Stunning. Thank you. It was nice catching up.
Thank you, Renaldo.
Lekker middag.
Dankie vir jou ook. Dit was nie te lankie.
No, this is great. And this is lekker. So jy's of my laat weet as dit live is and then
I'll let you know. I'm going to try and put it up tonight. Ek probeer dit om aand al op te sit. Dit is lekker want dan is like relevant and we can all talk about it.
Yeah, for this.
Stuur vir jou baie liefde.
Dankie.
En geniet jou ete.
Also,
Okay, bye.